You're at the airport. Passport? Check. Boarding pass? Check. Luggage? Checked. You think you're ready to fly. But there's one thing almost nobody thinks about before an international trip. Your phone. That little device in your pocket could contain years of photos, screenshots, messages, downloaded files, apps, documents, and personal information you've completely forgotten about. And here's the part most travelers never consider. If your electronic device is examined during an international border inspection, something that seems completely harmless to you can look very different when someone sees it without the context behind it. A screenshot you forgot about, an old message, a private photo, a document you downloaded months ago. Suddenly, things you never thought about become things you're carrying across a border. So before your next flight, I'm going to show you 7 things you should check and, when appropriate, delete from your phone. And don't skip number 1, because it's something most travelers never think to clean up before they fly. But first, there's one important distinction you need to understand. Get this right. Before you start deleting anything, let's clear up one major misconception. TSA and CBP are not the same agency. TSA is responsible for security screening at airports. CBP handles inspections when travelers cross U.S. borders. That distinction matters because the phone search issue we're talking about primarily concerns electronic device inspections during border encounters, not TSA officers routinely scrolling through everyone's phone at the airport security checkpoint. And here's the surprising part. CBP says electronic device searches are rare, but they do happen. So this isn't about panicking every time you go through airport security. It's about understanding what you're carrying before you cross an international border. Your phone is more than a communication device. For many travelers, it's also a camera, filing cabinet, wallet, travel document holder, photo album, and record of years of digital activity. And that's exactly why spending a few minutes reviewing it before an international trip can be a smart part of your travel preparation. Because the first thing you should check and possibly delete is probably sitting inside your screenshot folder right now. Let's count down from 7. 7. Old screenshots. Open your screenshot folder. Seriously, you might be surprised by how much you've forgotten is sitting there. That screenshot you took to remember a restaurant. The boarding pass from a trip 6 months ago. A random meme someone sent you. A conversation you wanted to save temporarily. A receipt you thought you might need. A screenshot of a map, a document, or information you only needed for 5 minutes. And somehow, months later, all of it is still on your phone. That's the problem with digital clutter. Unlike a suitcase, your phone doesn't feel heavier when you keep adding things to it. So before an international trip, spend a few minutes going through your screenshots, downloads, files, and recently deleted folders. If you no longer need something, remove it. If it contains sensitive information you don't need for the trip, don't leave it sitting on your device unnecessarily. And don't forget that screenshots can be easy to overlook because they're mixed in with thousands of ordinary photos. You took that screenshot for 5 minutes, but 6 months later, you're still carrying it. And screenshots are only the surface, because the next category is much more personal. 6. Old messages and group chats. Your friends know what you meant. A stranger doesn't. Think about how much context exists inside your conversations. A joke might make perfect sense when your friends have read the previous 50 messages. An inside joke might be completely obvious to everyone in the group. An old argument might have been forgotten by everyone involved. But take one sentence out of that conversation and look at it by itself, and suddenly the meaning can change. That's why it's worth reviewing old messages and group chats before an international trip. Look for conversations you no longer need, inactive group chats, outdated arguments, confusing group names, or messages you've simply forgotten about. And to be clear, this isn't about assuming that lawful political opinions, ordinary jokes, or personal conversations are automatically a problem. The point is much simpler. Digital communication depends heavily on context. Something that was completely harmless in one conversation can look very different when the surrounding conversation is missing. So clean up conversations you genuinely no longer need, rather than carrying years of digital clutter everywhere you go. Because there's another problem. Your messages aren't necessarily the only thing an app can reveal. 5. Apps you don't use. Your phone might be more overpacked than your suitcase. Take a look at your app library. How many apps have you installed that you haven't opened in months? Old social media accounts, shopping apps, work apps, dating apps, financial apps, cryptocurrency apps, games, services you tried once and completely forgot about. Having any of these apps isn't automatically suspicious. The question is much simpler. Do you actually need it on this trip? For an international journey, your phone should ideally contain the tools you genuinely need: your airline app, boarding pass, maps, translation, hotel information, transportation, emergency contacts, and the payment apps you actually use. Anything else is worth reviewing. And if you're traveling internationally, research the laws and regulations of your destination before you leave. Something completely ordinary where you live may be treated differently somewhere else. The goal isn't to make your phone look empty. It's to make it intentional. Because here's where things get interesting. Deleting an app doesn't necessarily mean the information connected to it has disappeared. For old files and documents, your downloads folder might be the most forgotten part of your phone. Think about everything you've downloaded over the past few years. Old PDFs, work documents, receipts, financial statements, copies of identification documents, old boarding passes, hotel confirmations from trips you've already taken, attachments someone sent you months ago. You may have opened them once, needed them for a few minutes, and then completely forgotten about them. But your phone remembers. So before an international trip, open your Downloads folder and your Files app. Look for documents you no longer need, especially anything containing personal, financial, work, or identification information. If you genuinely need a document, keep it secure and make sure you can access it when necessary. But if you don't need it anymore, there's little reason to keep an unnecessary copy on your device. Your phone shouldn't become a digital storage unit for every document you've opened in the last 3 years. And remember, removing a file from one folder doesn't necessarily mean every copy has disappeared. So what happens when you delete something? That's where number 3 gets interesting. 3. Data you think you deleted. Delete does not always mean disappeared. You remove a photo from your phone, but it may still be sitting in a recently deleted folder. Your photos might automatically sync to a cloud service. Your messages could be backed up. Your files could exist on another device. And documents you thought were gone might still have another copy somewhere you forgot about. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying a border officer automatically has access to every cloud account you use. That's not how this works. The important lesson is much simpler. Your phone may not be the only place your data exists. So before you travel, take a few minutes to understand what your phone is backing up and where your information is being synchronized. Check your photo backups. Review your cloud storage. Look at your message backup settings. And if you find sensitive information you no longer need, remove unnecessary copies from the places you control. Don't assume that deleting something from your screen means it's instantly gone everywhere. Because now we're getting to something much more important than old screenshots. 2. Sensitive information you don't need. Some things shouldn't be on your phone simply because you don't need them there. Maybe you've taken a photo of your credit card for convenience. Maybe you've saved a password in a plain text note. Maybe you still have an old copy of your identification document. Maybe your Notes app contains financial information, private work material, or personal documents you haven't looked at in years. None of this means you've done anything wrong. But ask yourself one simple question. Do I actually need this on my phone while I'm traveling? If the answer is no, consider removing unnecessary copies and storing important information through a more appropriate and secure method. Because your goal isn't to make your phone empty. Your goal is to make it intentional. Carry what you need. Protect what you need. Remove what you don't. And there's one final category that's even more personal, and probably the hardest one to clean up. 1. Private photos and videos you don't need. Your camera roll probably tells your life story better than your passport does. Think about what's accumulated there. Old videos, private photos, random images downloaded from the internet, pictures saved from social media, duplicate photos, sensitive screenshots, images you needed once and never looked at again. You might have 15,000 photos on your phone, but realistically, how many of them do you actually need while traveling internationally? Probably nowhere near 15,000. So before your trip, scroll through your recent photos and videos. Remove duplicates. Clear out random downloads. Delete media you no longer want or need. And don't forget about screenshots and saved images that may have been sitting there for months. This isn't about deleting something because it's illegal. It's about asking yourself a very simple question. Why am I carrying this? The more unnecessary information you carry, the more digital clutter you have to manage. And cleaning it up isn't about hiding your life. It's about taking control of what's on the device you carry everywhere. Now stop. If you're watching this the night before your flight, don't panic and factory reset your phone. It might sound like the ultimate way to start with a clean device, but you could easily create more problems than you solve. You could lose important photos or documents. You could remove an authentication app you need to access your accounts. You could delete travel information you still need. You could even lock yourself out of an account because you no longer have the verification method you were using. And if you're already standing at the airport trying to fix those problems, it's the worst possible time to discover them. The smarter approach is simple. Prepare gradually. Back up the information you actually need. Review your phone. Remove unnecessary digital clutter. Check the rules and laws that apply to your destination. And make sure every app you genuinely need for the trip still works. Remember, the smartest traveler isn't the person with an empty phone. It's the person who knows exactly what's on it. You don't need an entire weekend to prepare your phone. Give it 10 minutes. Minute 1, check your screenshots. Minute 2, open your downloads and files folders. Minute 3, review your photos and videos. Minute 4, look through old messages and group chats. Minute 5, remove apps you don't use or need for the trip. Minute 6, check your Notes app for sensitive information. Minute 7, review stored documents. Minute 8, check your recently deleted folders. Minute 9, review your cloud backups and synchronization settings. And Minute 10, make sure your actual travel essentials are ready. Your boarding pass, your airline app, maps, hotel information, translation tools, emergency contacts, and whatever payment method you genuinely need. That's it. 10 minutes. You don't need to erase your digital life. You just need to know what you're carrying. Your passport tells border officials who you are. Your boarding pass tells them where you're going. Your luggage tells them what you're physically carrying. And your phone? Your phone can contain years of your life. Photos, messages, documents, accounts, memories. Information you may have forgotten was even there. So before your next international trip, don't just check your suitcase. Check your phone. Not because every traveler is going to have their device searched, and not because you should be afraid of airport security, but because smart travelers know exactly what they're carrying. A few minutes of preparation at home can be far better than discovering digital clutter when you're already standing in an airport. Before you leave, open your screenshot folder. Seriously, take a look at what's actually sitting there. You might find something you completely forgot about. Then come back and comment, "Phone checked," so you know you've done your pre-flight digital cleanup. And tell me the strangest thing you discovered on your phone. Was it an old boarding pass? A random screenshot? A document from a trip years ago? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more airport rules, international travel tips, and flight hacks that can save you time, money, and unnecessary stress, subscribe before your next trip. Because the best travel hack isn't always something you pack. Sometimes, it's knowing exactly what you already have with you.